The Universal Orlando Resort is a popular vacation destination for a number of reasons. Among them, the rides. From rides that'll get you absolutely soaked to those that'll really have you questioning that breakfast burrito, there's a lot to experience at the 2 theme parks that currently make up the Universal Orlando Resort. Of course, with so many great attractions and experiences to choose from, everyone's got their own opinions of what the hits and misses are, which is why today, we're here at Universal Orlando to weigh in.
But look, today we're not just throwing out our recommendations and calling it good. Where's the fun in that? We're actually going to be referencing an article that was posted in late 2024 by Travel Market Report. I'll go ahead and pop that in the description down below if you want to check it out. But in the article, Travel Market Report reached out to travel advisors who sell Universal Vacations so that they could weigh in on some of their favorite attractions. And they had some great recommendations and maybe a few questionable ones. I also think that there are a few that should have made the list and didn't. I'll fill you in on that a little bit later. Anyway, we've got the whole day ahead of us, so let's get going.
We're kicking things off with an attraction that I can't imagine comes as much of a surprise to anyone. E.T. Adventure. According to Jillian, a travel advisor at Mom Approved Travel, not only was E.T. the very first movie I watched as a child, but I also rode this attraction with my mother on our first visit to Universal Studios. Now, both my mom and I can ride it together with my kids and watch the same wonder on their faces as a child. But what do we think?
There was no doubt in my mind that E.T. Adventure would make it onto this list, and I'm glad it did, because it is one of those attractions that I think could best be described as a classic. It's got a little bit of everything. The queue is absolutely amazing. The ride itself is just the right amount of thrilling, but also not too intense for those riders who need something a little bit more tame. And you know what? I'm not gonna lie. Everyone says this, and I have to agree. It's got a few moments that'll have you scratching your head, okay? But all the more reason to love it. I will say that of all of the attractions that I've been on recently that you could describe as a classic, this one seems to be really well kept. Of course, I haven't been a long time Universal fan. I only visited for the first time in the past year. So if you disagree, let me know in a comment down below. But at least as far as I'm concerned, the condition of this ride is really great, and I'm glad to see it, especially for a ride that so many people love and is arguably something that you could describe as outdated. I mean, how many kids know who E.T. is nowadays? I don't know. Either way, I'm glad it made it onto the list.
Next up on our list, again, no surprises here, Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. This is a themed roller coaster, which many seem to think is the best coaster in Orlando, presumably for the overall package, not just based on thrills alone. According to Christy, owner of Mom Approved Travel, Hagrid's is a very smooth coaster, but incorporates high speeds, a little backwards fun, and a bit of a drop. Thankfully, this ride gives you a chance to catch your breath between rushes of adrenaline and fun story moments, and ends with an incredible musical score and a baby unicorn.
Now this is another one that we just recently got the opportunity to ride for the first time, and I'm gonna tell you right now, it was great. This is exactly the type of attraction that stands out to us because it encompasses so much all in one attraction that it's honestly hard to describe. Like, there's no one word descriptor for it, at least not in my opinion. I mean, sure, it's a coaster, there's no getting around that, but there's so many additional elements and a storyline that follows you throughout the entire ride. Like, I can see why this one is considered by many to be the best coaster in the Orlando area. I have a hard time arguing that. It's a really good ride, so I definitely think that this should be something you should consider, even if you're not a huge Harry Potter fan, because it's just a great attraction.
The biggest challenge guests face in trying to ride this coaster is the wait. Unlike other popular attractions here at Universal Orlando, Hagrid's is standby only, meaning you can't use Express Pass, Universal Skip the Line service, to ride. Now, I've got to be honest with you. If you're not a fan of Harry Potter, I don't know what to tell you, because the next two attractions that made the list also came straight out of the Wizarding World. First, we've got Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts. How to describe this attraction? Well, part coaster, part simulator. This 4D attraction, it's something else. According to Mary, the owner of Be Our Guest Travel Company, the immersive design of the ride really makes you feel like you're stepping right into Gringotts itself. The incredible visuals, innovative ride mechanics, and fantastic storytelling come together to create an experience that makes you feel as though you're truly part of Harry Potter's magical world.
Okay, so I'm admittedly not a huge Harry Potter fan, sorry, but I still think that this is a really great attraction. Though, I think that there are some aspects of this attraction, at least in my opinion, that if you're not familiar with the story, might be lost on you. I know that Russ disagrees with me on this one, so feel free to share your thoughts in the comments down below. Still, it has an amazing queue, and the attraction is fun, so you know what, I say it's definitely worth checking out. Well look, don't put your broomsticks and enchanted objects away just yet. You gotta pop on over to another Harry Potter attraction, so let's go.
This unique attraction is, without a doubt, unlike anything you've ever experienced before. It's not a coaster, it's not a dark ride. It's something else entirely, which incorporates screens, practical sets, and while it's slow moving, it's certainly not short on thrills. Trish, of Trish's Timeless Travel, says it's a fantastical ride that has you being spit on by spiders and coming face to face with some interesting creatures.
It needs to be said, this is not a ride for everybody. If you're prone to motion sickness, this is not the ride for you. Even if you're not prone to motion sickness, this is one that just might test that. I also think it's worth noting that this attraction has some really scary moments, especially if you're planning on riding with someone who's a little bit more timid. I know that there are some attractions where even if they're spooky, it's not that big a deal, but on this one in particular, because of the way that the seats are set up, you're kind of isolated from the person that's on either side of you, so you really kind of feel alone. And if you're traveling with a little one, someone who might get spooked easily or be scared by larger than life things like spiders or, you know, cloaked figures jumping out at you, just keep that in mind before getting in line. Now with that out of the way, I do think that this one is super fun and definitely thrilling. Whether or not you're a fan of Harry Potter, if you're interested in just ride technology and new innovative things, I definitely think that this one should be on your list. But of course, if you're a Harry Potter fan, I mean, it's a must.
Just when you thought Harry Potter recommendations were behind us, we've got one more to add to the list. The Hogwarts Express. Christy, again from Mom Approved Travel, says this is one of her favorite rides that everyone can experience no matter how tall a muggle or wizard is. Everyone, even infants and pregnant moms, can experience this immersive ride into the wizarding world to make their wizarding dreams come true. She goes on to say, I love encouraging my clients to ride it both directions, as they are two distinctly different experiences.
And she's right. While most people refer to Hogwarts Express or the Hogwarts Express as one attraction, it's actually better described as two, because you can get on here or over in London at Universal Studios, and depending on where you start, it's a slightly different experience. So in order to get the full effect, you know, to experience the whole thing, you're riding twice. Now, personally, I'm not entirely sure how this one made it onto the list. While I do appreciate the attraction, and I do think that it can be a great option for those Harry Potter fans who might not be able to ride some of the more intense Harry Potter attractions, it's just a little too clunky, at least in my opinion, to make it onto the list of Universal Orlando's best. On top of that, you're gonna need a park-to-park ticket in order to ride the Hogwarts Express, because it's technically transportation between Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure. So that's an additional cost that you're gonna have to take into consideration if you really wanna ride this attraction. Other notable downsides to the Hogwarts Express is that it usually has a really long line. I find that it's sometimes unreliable, like it goes down often enough that I've noticed it, and because it can be used as transportation between the two parks, you can sometimes get caught in a car where people are just there for the transportation aspect and not for the experience, and that can, it's not necessarily the best way to enjoy that ride.
Finally. We finally made it out of the Wizarding World so we can talk about some of the other franchises represented at Universal Orlando. So welcome to Jurassic Park. We've got two attractions to talk about here in this corner of Islands of Adventure, and the first, well, it's a tricky one. This recommendation coming from Paloma, a Click the Mouse travel planner, is Jurassic World the ride.
This attraction, as described by this travel advisor, doesn't exist here in Orlando. It's over at Universal in Hollywood. What we have here is River Adventure, which is essentially a carbon copy of an attraction over again in Hollywood called Jurassic Park, the ride. So lots of confusion with this one, which is why it's so important to always remember that you have to do your research even when you go the route of using a travel advisor or travel planner. Yes, this might seem like a small detail, but these small details, they matter, and even worse, they can add up. Which, especially when you're traveling and you're in a position where you feel like you need that assistance from a travel advisor or a travel planner, it can leave you stressed out and confused because you're in the parks trying to navigate this area, you're asking about something that doesn't exist. You know, like, no one wants to be in that position, and unfortunately a lot of people end up in that position when they visit the parks, both here at Universal as well as Walt Disney World. But it can also lead to disappointment because you're setting expectations based on something that doesn't exist in the place that you're visiting. So just something to keep in mind.
Let's play along though, if for no other reason than to just continue making our way through this list. So, Jurassic Park River Adventure. This is a water ride that takes you through the gates of Jurassic Park, giving you a chance to look at the dinosaurs that roam the park. Of course, there's a twist that makes this one of those rides where you just might get wet.
Now, while this attraction, it's got its charm, it definitely doesn't belong on this list. At least the last time that I rode the River Adventure here at Islands of Adventure, it was in rough shape. That having been said, I absolutely see that this attraction has potential if they gave it the love that it deserves. Now, as a little bit of a disclaimer, I will mention that since I did ride this last, there were some elements of the attraction that did return. So when I rode, they weren't working. They're working now, at least that's what I've heard. Still, there are far more attractions here at Universal Orlando that I would prioritize over this one. Sorry.
VelociCoaster, one of my absolute favorite attractions here at Universal Orlando, second only on my list of bests to, well, we haven't quite gotten there yet. According to Wendy, a travel advisor at Mom Approved Travel, the drop known as the Top Hat, while it looks intimidating, is the least scary of the scary elements while riding, as you experience the drop in the middle of the ride after a 70-mile-per-hour blast-off. The feeling in your stomach that you usually feel with most attractions that have big drops is not present. A lot of people don't know this, but the very last barrel roll at the end is the scariest part of the ride. You are so close to the water that you feel like you will fall right in, making it an excellent way to end this experience.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree. In fact, I'm on this coaster almost every single time I'm here at the park because it's a great ride. It's fast, it's exhilarating, and I mean, how many places in Orlando can you do something like that? Very few. But I mean, the thing that stands out, at least for me, is just how smooth this coaster is, which can easily be attributed to the fact that it's new. You know, the older coasters get, the rougher they become. But at least for the time being, I love that you can ride this and it's so smooth that you're thinking about this and not thinking so much about trying to brace against the concussive force of being rattled on the track, you know? So for me, yeah, definitely deserves a spot on this list.
Next up, we're headed back over to Universal Studios for an attraction that I'm so happy made the list: Men in Black Alien Attack. Denise, the owner of Travel Brilliant, says, "This is a timeless classic, blending thrilling attraction with a humorous interactive experience. Inspired by the iconic franchise, this ride invites guests to become recruits in the Men in Black organization, zapping alien targets as they journey through a neon-lit, chaotic world. With its dynamic storyline, interactive special effects, and the fun of friendly competition, Men in Black delivers nostalgia for fans of the films and newcomers alike."
I couldn't have said it better myself. There's a lot to love with this attraction, and with the game element, I mean, it's hard to not want to jump right back in line. I mean, come on. Who doesn't want to try and one-up their travel companions? I do. I will say too, even though Men in Black is creeping up on 30 years old, yeah, take that in. I do think that this attraction still holds up. You know, it doesn't lean so heavily on the franchise because it does have those game elements, and you don't have to know anything about Men in Black to have a great time on here. So definitely worth checking out.
Before moving along, I have to mention that this Men in Black area of the park, tucked away in a seemingly forgotten corner of what I'd imagine is going to become a brushed-off park between Harry Potter and Springfield, is probably my favorite place to vibe out in all of Universal Orlando. With a soundtrack of Michael Jackson, Offspring, Nelly, and MC Hammer, if you're hoping to stumble into me, it's probably back here, having the time of my life. Speaking of having the time of your life, nothing quite says unforgettable theme park experience like our next attraction, Revenge of the Mummy. To borrow the words of our favorite city correspondent from Weekend Update, Stefan, this place has everything. Thrills, chills, fire, bodily fluids being sprayed on guests, and a disgruntled hottie who just wants a cup of coffee.
Now this, at least in my opinion, is one of the best attractions in the Orlando area. It's got so much going for it. It's got a great queue. I mean, what more could you ask for?
We're headed back to Islands of Adventure to wrap up our list today with an attraction that, honestly, I didn't see coming. The High in the Sky Seuss Trolley Train. This is a slow-moving train ride that was added to the list by Maria, a travel advisor from Mom Approved Travel, who says the trolley takes riders around Seuss Landing with a bird's eye view. She says her favorite time of year to ride is during the holiday season at night, when the decorations in Seuss Landing are up and the lights are twinkling.
Now this is one that we only just rode for the first time the other day, and I'm so glad that we prioritized it during that visit because it's so much fun. It actually took both of us by surprise. Now, it is a slow-moving attraction. That's ideal for everyone in the family, but they don't call it High in the Sky for nothing. You're up there, and that does add this element of a thrill that I wasn't expecting. I don't think Russ was expecting it either, nor was the guy sitting behind us. It was a good time though. I loved the bird's eye view, and I do think that it's one that's worth checking out if you're gonna be here at Islands of Adventure. More often than not, everyone's rushing past this attraction, but you know, maybe later in the day, especially at night and during Christmas time when the lights are twinkling, just like that travel advisor said, yeah, this is a good one.
So we've heard from the travel planners and advisors. They had some great recommendations, but did they miss the mark? I don't know if I'd go so far as to say that, but I do think that there are some attractions that definitely should have made the list.
Right at the top of that list, The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man.
This 4D dark ride style attraction is pretty impressive, but don't take my word for it. It's won numerous awards since it opened in 1999, to include Amusement Today's Golden Ticket Award for Best Dark Ride 12 years in a row. Other attractions in the area that have also won Golden Ticket Awards include Star Wars Rise of the Resistance and Twilight Zone Tower of Terror.
This is one that I feel like not enough people talk about, which honestly I think is a shame because it's fun. It's exciting, but it's also not as limiting as some of the other thrill rides here at the park, so a wide range of guests can enjoy it. Personally, I think it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you're a Spider-Man fan.
Another great attraction that definitely should have made the list, at least in my opinion, is Despicable Me Minion Mayhem. This ride is adorable, heartwarming, and has just the right amount of thrill.
So you're sitting on a bench or in a bench style seat, and there's a lap bar, you're watching a film, and you're being jostled around while you watch that film, kind of like a simulator. So in that way, I definitely would describe this as a ride. Now there are some special seats for those who can't be jostled around or for those who might not meet the height requirements, so that's worth checking out, especially if you have little ones who like Minions. I love this one though. It's so much fun. Plus, at the end, dance party. I mean, who could say no to that? Even if you're not a huge fan of the Minions franchise, this one, it's still pretty fun.
Over in DreamWorks Land, we've got another attraction that we think would make a great addition to this list, especially for those of you who are traveling with little ones, the Troller Coaster.
This coaster is so much fun, and while it might not necessarily be the most intense coaster here at Universal Orlando, I mean, it is a kiddie coaster, I still think it deserves a spot on this list. It's quick, it's zippy, it's a lot of fun, and definitely one worth checking out, whether or not you're here with little ones, because I'll tell you what, Russ and I went on Troller Coaster and we couldn't wipe the smile off our face. All right, I've got one more to add to the list, though it's technically two, and I'm sure it's gonna be a hot take, but still, it needs to make it onto this list, and that is both water rides here at Islands of Adventure in Toon Lagoon. I mean, it needs to be said. So we're talking Dudley Do Right's Ripsaw Falls as well as the bilge wrap barges. Look, both of these attractions, they're a blast. And I don't think that they get enough credit, okay? Everyone likes to avoid them because they're water rides. And yes, you will get sopping wet, but it's Florida. Especially if you're visiting in the summertime, it's hot. You need to cool off. And either of these rides, if not both, that's best case scenario, they're definitely gonna help you do that. And they're a lot of fun. They're just, I couldn't stop laughing when I was riding both of these. It's the type of attraction, well, both of them are, that'll have you feeling like a kid again. And I mean, who doesn't need a little dose of that? So give them a try if you're here in the Universal Orlando area. Also bring an extra pair of shoes. Can't go wrong bringing extra shoes.
So, there you have it. Do we agree with the travel planners? Do we think they missed the mark? Not exactly. But look, here's the thing. Rides, just like everything else, are subjective. Maybe you love high-speed thrills, or maybe you're all about family-friendly fun. There really is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to this type of thing.
That having all been said, we'd love to hear from you. Do you agree with these travel advisors for their best picks? Do you think they missed the mark with any? Also, what do you think about our additions to the list? And if there's any that you think should make the list that we didn't talk about, tell me about it in a comment down below. Of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, I want to know if all of this talk of best attractions has you excited for Epic Universe. I mean, I know a lot of people are excited for a new theme park regardless, but do you think that that's going to change the game? Are we going to have to revisit this list after it opens? Tell me your thoughts in a comment down below. And even though we don't know yet, tell me what Epic Universe attractions you think might make the list in the future. I want to hear about it. But until then, I'm going to hang out and enjoy the rest of my day here at Universal Orlando. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you had fun, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Until then.